Hey, I'm Gemma from GemmaBonham-Carter.com. I help online business owners create, launch, and scale their digital products. So what are we going to be talking about in this video? I'm going to be going over the 3 do's and the 3 don'ts you want to know about when it comes to creating a successful pitch. So what am I even talking about when I'm talking about pitching? I'm talking about pitching collaborations, and I use collaborations specifically not only for visibility in my business, but to grow my email list, because I want to continuously be growing my audience, bringing new leads onto my email list, and collaborations are one of the best ways to do this. So this might look like pitching yourself for a podcast interview, pitching yourself to do a training for somebody else's audience, pitching a joint venture webinar with somebody, pitching yourself for some kind of feature, right? Any of those things are going to apply. And there are some really key do's and don'ts to making sure your pitch gets noticed, actually read, and responded to. Because if you are pitching successful entrepreneurs in any niche, the chances are that they're getting tons of pitches every single day. So what can you be doing to make sure that yours stands out in their inbox and they actually want to take action on it, right? That's ultimately what we want to do. And I have been able to kind of create a bit of a process and template and system for myself to be regularly pitching myself for opportunities to collaborate with other entrepreneurs who have a similar target audience to mine. And I have really used and leveraged this system to build my email list much faster than if I was relying only on organic content marketing or social media. This has allowed me to really see really nice big jumps in my email list subscriber numbers thanks to these kinds of collaborations. So let's dive right on into it. The 3 do's of a successful pitch. Number 1 is I always like to open up my pitch with either a connection point or flattery. So what does this mean? The connection point would be something like if I have had any kind of relationship with this person before, or maybe we have a mutual friend, or maybe I have taken a program of theirs, or if there's any kind of connection that you can use, I want you to leverage that and talk about it right away at the top of your pitch. If there is no connection point at all between you and this person, then we're gonna kill them with kindness, right? We wanna start with flattery. And so what do I mean when I say flattery? That would mean, like, let's say you're pitching somebody to get on their podcast. You wanna actually reference a recent episode of theirs and make it clear that you actually listened to the episode and be like, oh, I really loved it when you talked about XYZ. It really resonated with me and encouraged me to blah de blah, right? Like, you want to basically show them that you aren't just copying and pasting this pitch from person to person to person. You are actually invested in them and their business, and you know what they're all about. This can really make a giant difference between somebody's pitches who fall flat and somebody who pitches and regularly books gigs, right? Because if you're the person receiving that, if this pitch just jumps into a very formal, like, copy and paste style pitch template, it just doesn't have the same feeling as when I receive a pitch in my inbox and they say, oh, I loved this recent episode, or I loved this recent piece of social media content. I saw you on Instagram stories talking about this, right? It shows me, oh, they really are like a fan of mine. They know what's up, and it goes a long way to me to actually want to read the rest of the pitch. So that's number 1. Start with a connection point or flattery. Number 2 is the next part of your pitch has to demonstrate the win for the person you are pitching. But they don't care about the win that you're receiving, right? From this proposed collaboration. They care about what they are going to get out of it. So if, again, let's follow the example of you're pitching yourself for a podcast. What is the win for the podcast host? So you really need to show them that you're going to come onto their show with an incredible piece of content or teaching or how-to or story or whatever to share with their audience that's going to really benefit their audience, right? If the win is you're pitching a joint venture webinar with somebody, then the win is going to be that they're going to grow their email list, like you're going to grow your email list together by engaging in a joint venture webinar or any other kind of partnership type you want to pitch, right? think of it through the lens of the person you are pitching, because it needs to have a win for them. So present the win. That's number 2. The third do of a pitch is to have some really like juicy, attention grabbing story headlines that you are using when you talk about, so if you're going to come on and do a podcast interview, or you're going to come and do a free training for their community, or you're going to come and do a joint venture webinar, or whatever it might be, a lead magnet swap, anything. What are the stories or the topics that you're going to teach on for their audience, and how can you present those in a really attention grabbing, juicy way? So the difference would be like, okay, let's take one for my own example. I could have something that says, I can come and teach your community how to create and launch online courses. Okay, it's a little ho-hum, right? It's all right, but it's not like very attention grabbing. Versus, let me come and show your audience how I went from a $700 launch to $132,000 within the span of 12 months from one online course. Way more juicy, right? They're like, oh, she built up a 6-figure revenue stream from online courses within a year. That's impressive. My audience would probably really dig hearing her story and learning some how-to tips to do that themselves, right? See the difference there? We've taken our topic, but really turned it into almost like a news story article headline, right? So having those kind of juicy headlines, and let's say you're pitching yourself for a podcast interview, you might include 2 or 3 of those attention grabbing headlines as potential topics to go on their podcast with. So those are the 3 do's of pitches. Start with your connection point or flattery, introduce the win for the partner, and then lastly, have juicy attention grabbing headlines for your own topics or stories. Those are the 3 do's. Now let's talk about the 3 don'ts, the things I really do not want you to do in your pitches. The first one is to talk all about yourself. And this is really common, right? Because we think that we need to prove ourselves in order for somebody to say yes to the collaboration, but we really don't have to. Like 1 to 2 sentences max about who you are and what you do is enough. Do not go on for paragraphs and paragraphs about your background, business story, the exact target audience you serve, all of the programs that you do, like everywhere you've been featured. You don't need to go and do all of that. It becomes a lot in the pitch, like it just makes the email way too long. And again, the person who's reading the pitch, frankly, they don't care about you and your background and what you do. Like, to be brutally honest, they care about what is in it for them, which is why you need to lead with the connection point, the flattery, and the win for them. Okay? So don't go on too much about yourself. A brief intro is good. The second thing is, don't make it hard to read. So the worst thing is to get a pitch where there are these giant paragraphs of text in an email. That's a quick delete for me in my inbox, okay? You want to make sure your paragraphs are like 2 to 3 sentences max, so that you have lots of nice white space in there, and make it very easy to scan, to read quickly, and just cut the fluff. Like, do not make these too long, because they just will not get read. These are busy people that you're emailing. It is just not going to be worth their time to read through the whole thing. I always like to end my pitch with a question, because it incites them to want to reply. So it might be something like, are you interested? Are you in? How does this sound? Something like that. All right, so that was number 2. Number 3, the last don't that I want you to consider when you're pitching is not to go into too many details about what this collaboration could look like. You know, you don't need to go in and say like, okay, like on this date, we might do this, and here's how it would work, and here are all the steps and all my ideas and da-da-da-da-da. You're overwhelming them, right? The first thing you want to do, you want to pitch the idea in a very simplistic format and just get the yes. Right? Get them to respond to say, yeah, that sounds interesting. Let's do that. And then you can respond with, okay, here's what I was thinking, and lay out the steps of how it might work. And hot tip here, you do all the work, right? As the person pitching and collaborating with this bigger, like presumably bigger level entrepreneur, you need to make it really easy for them, right? So you need to like prep anything that needs to be prepped and just like do the work to make this like an easy yes for them. So those were my 3 don'ts. Don't talk all about yourself. Don't write huge, long, lengthy emails without space that are going to be hard to scan and read, and don't go into too many details about the nitty-gritty of the collaboration before you've actually just gotten the yes. All right, so those are the do's and don'ts of successful pitching. I want to know in the comments below, have you sent a pitch before? Have you been too nervous to? What has been holding you back if you haven't? And if you have sent a pitch, how's it gone? Have you gotten that yes? Were you successful? Have you started to use this more in your business to leverage other people's audiences so that you can grow your own audience and build your own email list? If you want to learn more about using collaborations to grow your audience and build your email list, I invite you to check out some of the other videos that we've linked to below, all about this topic. All right, that's it for this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you get notified every time we release a new one. Rooting for you.